After 17 years of putting on such a technical and specific type of show, it is a given that many mistakes have occurred at Hatsune Miku concerts. But even I find myself surprised that I've come across even more mistakes to make a third video about them. So once again, I want to show my appreciation to all the staff that work so hard to make these shows possible, and having the majority of these shows turn out flawless. But we all have those days, and I think it's amazing that even a virtual idol like Miku can have some off days. So on to the first mistake, which is the most recent out of all of these, and it occurred at the Lawson 50th Anniversary Live in January of 2026. Recently, Krypton have been re-rendering some of their performances, one of which being Tio, with the re-render replacing the R319 model with a newer version of the Yuke model, which despite the previous re-renders they've already done being perfectly fine, for some reason, this re-render has super dark shadows. Shadows so dark they are pitch black, which led to this horrifying image of Miku during the performance. I find it crazy that the shadows turned out so dark and nobody seemed to catch it or fix it, because this went on to happen for its performances at the Miku Expo North America 2026 tour, but I hope somebody shouts to get it changed because, yeah, this has caused some nightmare fuel. So let's temporarily forget this image and jump back in time to 2012, where apparently, for the daytime concert of the final Thanksgiving Day event, there were some issues with audio. We know this from an apology that was issued on the day, stating that there was an audio malfunction that resulted in some audio being inaudible. Unfortunately, there's no video evidence of the incident, as only the evening concert was filmed, and due to Japan's strict rule against recording, there is no fan footage either. So we don't exactly know when, how, and for how long this error occurred, but after a little while of trying to dig through old review articles about the event and coming across things I wish I could unsee, I found one article stating that the malfunction occurred during the chorus of the first performance of World Is Mine. Now it still doesn't explain what the malfunction was, so I can only guess it was likely Miku's vocals suddenly cut out or randomly lowered in volume and got washed out by the live instruments, but this was the only article I managed to find on it, so unless anyone else posted about it at the time, I guess we won't truly know what happened during this performance of World Is Mine. Unlike all the previous mistakes that I have covered, this next one is actually a pretty dangerous one. In 2025, Magical Mirai was in full swing as it always did every year, and as is standard with every Miku event, the concerts ended off with a burst of confetti. But while the event was in Osaka, a post surfaced online, and it read, courtesy of bad translations, "Let me tell you what just happened. I was watching the live from the first row when right in front of me, a silver tape cannon fired off. At the same time, with a loud kaboom, from my light stick, I felt something hit it and fall down, and what I thought was a cap turned out to be a nail, along with a picture of said nail. So according to this person's account, when the confetti cannons fired off, this person felt a nail fall down and hit them, which is a massive safety hazard. Because if a nail or another similar object fired out of the cannon at the same speed as the confetti, it could lead to serious injuries. And this could have been a very different story if this nail fell even just a couple inches in a different direction. And as you can see, this post gained a lot of traction, and Krypton were immediately made aware of what happened, soon making a post of their own, apologising for the worry this incident was causing, and that they were investigating the issue to try and figure out what happened. They did also state they believed the chance of a foreign object being caught inside the cannon was low, since no nails or screws were used to secure the cannons, but they would continue to investigate regardless. And 2 weeks later, they posted a follow-up with the conclusion of the investigation, stating that they found the likelihood of a foreign object getting caught inside the cannon and ejected was extremely low, as well as doing some tests as if a foreign object was present in the cannon, and found the area it would have landed in after being fired was different to where the individual who reported the issue was located. And they also stated that the nail could have fallen during construction of the stage, and was failed to be cleaned up, and could have rolled through the venue due to the vibrations of the music. However, even with this conclusion, they still acknowledged this concern, and stated how going forward, they would take extra precautions to ensure the risk of foreign objects getting caught in the cannons was reduced even further, and expressed thanks to the individual for reporting it. So whether the nail actually was fired from the cannon or not, this is still a very dangerous incident that caused a lot of concern, and in a way, it's sort of a good thing that it happened, because Krypton have now been made aware of its possibility, and can now take action to try and reduce the chance to almost zero for future events. With that more serious one, I think it's time for a more silly mistake. During the Miku Expo North America 2024 tour, at the Toronto show, during Thousand Little Voices slow outro, there was a sudden blare of a guitar note. Obviously this was an accident. You can see her move her hand to the guitar before the noise happens, and then she just completely takes her hands away. But I do find it crazy how the extra screens all lit up at the exact second the note happened. But it was actually just an insanely timed coincidence. This next one occurred in 2016 during Miku's largest tour at the time, Miku Expo 2016, and it happened right at the end of the concert. Usually, after the final song of the concert, Miku either ends with a speech in a pose, or she poses at the end of the song before an effect sweeps her away. For Miku Expo 2016, Miku performed the latest version of her very first song, Fragments of a Star, where she performs the song on a keyboard. After the very moving performance ends, she gets up and bows and very quickly says, "See you soon," before instantly freezing and fizzing away. It's so abrupt, she didn't even get to finish blinking. It obviously feels cut off because of how random her final position is. She didn't get to pose, she didn't get to blink. It's like someone backstage just suddenly hit pause on her and forced her off stage. So I'm going to class this as a mistake, as it seems like a really weird and rushed position to end off in, especially since the original version of this performance ended off so much nicer. At Miku Expo Shanghai 2015, where she got to bow, wave, and then walked off stage. Like, why didn't they keep this? I assume it's because they wanted it to work with the ending effects, so the audience could see her turn into the little sparkle, but even then, they could have paused her like here, so it looked a little more natural and composed. Her walking off stage would have been such a nice way to end off the concert, but instead it just looks like she was booted off stage for taking too long. Now we're back to 2025, with an error that occurs with the projector setup, specifically the glass screen. You can see for many of the performances of Magical Mirror 2025, you're able to spot many points where there are scratches on the screen. Now this is a huge error considering how much it can interfere with the character's images, where I found it especially noticeable during Do the Rock, as Miku stood in the area of this particular scratch that covered her face quite a lot. And I'm going to be honest, this is an error I forgot was even possible, as we have been so many years of concerts where scratches have been very minimal or even zero, with the only other incident I can really think of being Magical Mirror 2014, which also had many scratches in many spots. But I honestly see this as an achievement that they've gone so long without scratches being very noticeable, as these screens are definitely super delicate, and it likely takes only a slight wrong movement for a scratch to appear. But these instances definitely count as a mistake, as it does interrupt the character's images, and can easily disrupt the illusion of them actually being there, as you see them walking around and then suddenly a scratch appears on their face, and you realise, oh yeah, they're just on a screen. Now the rest of these mistakes are all rendering mistakes, as luckily there haven't been too many crazy incidents since I made the last video. So first we have Meiko's performance of Pianoforte Scandal. In the Magical Mirror 2013 render, there is a case of some glitching black spots around Meiko's sleeve holes. It can be hard to catch as it is only a small area that's affected, but they are there. I'm not sure if it's a clipping issue or a shading issue, but I'm leaning towards a shading issue. As for the Mirai 2014 performance, initially I thought it was gone, but it is just barely noticeable in the lighter grey shading. I did try to see if the Mikupa version of the performance had the issue, but it seemingly doesn't, so it's just for this version. And weirdly enough, this version hasn't been used since the 2014 performance, so I guess Krypton didn't like the new version and went back to the old one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I guess. Oh, and also with this version, Meiko turns super fast at the end. She's given herself whiplash, whereas the Mikupa version is much more graceful. Like, what even happened here to make her turn that quick? That caught me so off guard watching these clips. She just stared right into my soul. Then for Yumi's performance from Mirai 2013, when she does this little shocked expression, for a very split second, her eyebrows have gone through her eyes, and then later on in the song, it's a little more noticeable as it happens again. Honestly, it's a very forgivable error, as it's likely very easy to miss facial errors, especially when they happen so fast, and it's not really something you notice in person either, so it doesn't really affect the show, but I do have to wonder if it happened because they took the facials straight from the 2012 performance and pasted them onto the 2013 model, and since they are different models, their facial calculations are different, so the same facial input doesn't work out the same. If that is the case, it does explain why this Miku looks so bug-eyed compared to before. Now this next one I didn't even realise until someone pointed it out, and is more interesting than a mistake, but for all of the Magical Mirai 2013 renders, where Miku is wearing her default outfit, she has zero tie physics. Her tie is just stationary for each and every performance, and you can see it twisting instead of flowing in some of the shots. And I think it's just a question of why they decided to get rid of her tie physics, especially when for Shaker's performance, Len has physics on his tie, and he's over here doing all sorts of flips and somersaults, so surely he should have been the one with the frozen tie. It gets weirder when you realise the majority of the performances when she's in her default are very tame and slow songs, so if clipping was the issue, these performances wouldn't have really caused that. But even then, they had the physics figured out, as they had Len flipping around just fine. So I'm not sure what caused this decision, especially when for Mirai 2014, all of the new performances had tie physics, and then half of the songs that carried over from 2013 now gained tie physics, but the other half of the performances were still frozen. So I've just decided that the tie had stage fright in 2013, and gained some confidence in 2014, but still had some fright that overcame it sometimes. Now the final rendering mistake, and overall mistake for this video, occurred at Magical Mirai 2025. You'd think after rendering these performances for close to 2 decades now, they'd finally reach perfection, but these Vocaloids rely on humans to bring them to life, so some are bound to still slip through. This event saw many new group performances of the characters, one of which being the girls coming together to form a girl band. But these girls have got some massive skills, but not from their playing, no, from holding their instruments up without a strap. These things are just floating there, and once you notice it, you realise how strange it looks, especially when they just fully let go of it. Rin also seems to be weirdly shaded during this performance, but I have to wonder if it's because she's positioned much further back than the others, so the calculated lighting they usually use didn't work well with her in this position. But either way, the floating guitars definitely take a silly spotlight for this performance, and I wonder if it will ever get fixed if this song is performed again, or if the girls will forever be using the power of friendship to hold up their guitars. But that is all the mistakes I have for this video. Sadly, they weren't as exciting as the mistakes in the first 2 videos, but I still think they were noteworthy to share. But if you do want to see mistakes that were more interesting that have happened at Miku concerts, I do recommend the first 2 videos if you haven't seen them, as many of those mistakes were absolutely crazy. But I think this will definitely be my last video on Miku concert mistakes for probably years, as mistakes don't happen too often, although when I said this in the last mistakes video, after I recorded it, the confetti cannon thing happened, then the no guitar straps happened, then Tio happened, so I'm kind of scared I just jinxed them at this point. But as cool as mistakes are to happen, I do not wish for them to become frequent. As we've just seen, they can end up being dangerous. So even though they are interesting to see, I hope we continue to receive more and more flawless shows, even though the mistakes do show that still behind everything that Miku does, there is a human doing their best to create the best shows for everyone. And I don't know, I find that kind of poetic. Anyway, thank you for watching, and here's to the Miku concerts we all love, scuffs and all.